So we've covered a lot of ground. We covered everything from how buyers actually look at the value of your business, legal structure, founder dependence. We covered all the way through financial and tax readiness, operational readiness, commercial and revenue quality, people, IT. And I guess the big obvious question now then is, now that you've done all this work, you've gone through this large, long due diligence process, it now comes time to sale. So what actually happens at and around the heads of terms?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing in all that is finding the right buyer.
Right.
And so let's say, put the scenario, your advisor, and you probably would be needing an advisor for this stage if you haven't got a buyer already in mind. If you're going to market, you'll have had a information memorandum, sale memorandum, which is generally a slide deck of 10 slides, which is giving the historical financial performance, the future growth, the value drivers of your business and the key differentiators of your business, and you're putting that out to potential buyers. After that, someone bites you're probably having several conversations going on at the same time, but you will only be able to you'll only sign heads of terms with one of them. Some buyers think, oh, I'll sign heads of terms with a few buyers and see where due diligence goes, and then go down that route. No, any buyer looking to invest in your business will want exclusivity as soon as heads of terms are signed. So I think it's really important at the heads of terms stage to get as much of the headline data out as possible. In other words, having a clear enterprise value and what will adjust that during due diligence. The better prepared, the more preparation you've done to get to hit that headline figure will be key. Because if you haven't done a lot of the preparation, then you will be not during the due diligence process, because they will find things that you didn't think were there, or you didn't think you'd had, or that aren't quite right. So heads of terms are key. The process of that is absolutely ensure that you have a good M&A lawyer involved, and always get them to review heads of terms prior to going into the process, because they will have a different view from corporate finance houses, and they will put things in there that will make the due diligence process easier. So absolutely get the good M&A advisor on board for heads of terms. Once heads of terms are signed, effectively, that's they're dictating the timelines and process of due diligence. So generally, once heads of terms have signed, the buyer will send you a timetable, a project timetable of the due diligence process, which will be in different streams. And you'll have the key streams will be legal, as pretty much going through the modules we've discussed. They might lump a few of those together, but the key ones will be legal, finance and tax, operational and commercial, IT, HR, and company policies. So those are all the modules, and that is all the information. I think sellers are probably quite lazy in a part, and you'll find a lot of duplication over different modules, especially on the legal and financial and the legal and commercial side, because they'll both ask for the same things. So if you've got a well-structured data room and because it will be the seller's obligation to provide the data room, and always use your own data room. Do not use one provided by the buyer. So have your own data room. Do not pay a fortune for data rooms. There's platforms out there. It's basically just a very restricted SharePoint or Google Doc site, but you've just got to make sure access to it is properly managed and the permissions are properly managed. Having it very well structured in terms of indexed modules, in terms of lay it out in the modules of the due diligence streams that the seller has requested. So legal and documentation, tax and financial, all those areas. So structure it how the seller's doing it, and make sure your numbering criteria is correct, in that a lot of the cross-referencing, you can just refer to legal document 7.2.3, such like. So that will save you a lot of time on repeating yourself in these. But generally, the due diligence streams will come in spreadsheet format, where it's shared documents that you need to upload documents and give narrative. You'll find the legal stuff probably comes towards the end of the process. There'll be a certain amount that you need to put in there, like company documents and all the rest of it. But things like the share purchase agreement and thing that a buyer might want to get to a certain stage of financial due diligence before they invest in the share purchase agreement and the disclosure letters and all those sort of things and warranties. The financial and tax will probably be the most onerous. On the commercial side, be prepared for, and again, these are where red lines come in, be prepared for a buyer wanting to talk to your clients. And how do you give them access to that? How do you frame that? We framed it as a customer survey with key points. So you do not want to be telling customers we're about to be bought. Oh, here's access to the buyer.
Yeah.
You don't want that unless it's pretty nailed on certain that you're signing that deal. So you've got to frame it in certain ways, but be prepared for all that because they will want as much access as they can to your information. And you've got to be quite careful and quite managed about how you provide them with that because they will keep coming back for more and more and more and more and more. And quite often what you'll find is that you've got a headline price in the heads of terms. The financial diligence goes on and on and on. And you're just going, right, where's this leading? Where is this leading? And sometimes it comes back and get, right, we were going to offer you £10 million. We're now offering you £6 million. And you're doing all this work when that was the intention all the time. So you've got to have the conversations and check in with the main points of contact just to say, by the way, if this is going to end up in a value reduction to X, then we will walk away.
Yeah.
And so please be upfront about that because you're spending money on your advisors that is going to be a waste of money because so be clear about your red lines and communicate along all the time along that process. Once the financial due diligence is complete, and that's generally the final bit of completion, you're then getting into the final details of your share purchase agreements and your warranties and disclosure letters. And those are all legal documents that a buyer requires. Like warranties are, if we get an HMRC investigation into our tax affairs in the last 5 years or 7 years, I will warrant against that. So, or if we've broken the law and done something really bad, I will warrant against that. And generally, you'll have limits on those warrants that the buyer won't be able to. You need to be at 10% of the enterprise value for them to claim. So if you've sold at 10 million, then their claim needs to be at least £1 million to be able to invoke a warrant. So that's why they're doing their due diligence they've got that backstop, but they really don't want to be invoking that. So once you've got all that, once the due diligence streams are out the way, then it's a case of signing documents on a certain point of time and then money being transferred after that. And it's, I think the emotion of that is huge. Once you actually get the deal complete is wow, you just go, huh, is that all over?
Yeah, I can imagine.
I remember it now and just thinking, even my body's tingling now because remembering that moment, just go, it's done. And you go, what, really?
Yeah.
You then have actually quite an intense period of communication with your team, with your employees, with customers, with whoever's been involved in the process. So you have quite an intensive few weeks of process that you've got, which is great. I mean, but it's all of a sudden things have changed. You've got new owners, and it's all positive, and hopefully everyone is eager for the change. But the communication is key, I think, for any new buyer, giving staff and employees certainty and just going, look, there's going to be no reorganization for 3 months. Just carry on as you are. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We are going to do this. We are going to do this. That's what staff are. They're just wanting questions answered. So being as communicative possible as you can be on that side is the better. So tie-ins depending on earnouts, or you'll have completion accounts generally within 60 days of signing your deal. And that's so that things like sort of debtors and such like could be chased. And so effectively your completion accounts, the end price, you'll vary because that working capital figure that we discussed will get agreed on completion account date, and the value on your balance sheet will get agreed. So the difference between that will also be paid on top of your enterprise value for your business. So again, that is a key part of still being involved. So even if you're not on earnout, you'll still be involved for 3 months probably after the process is finished in terms of completion accounts and such like. And after that, it's what next?